I'm sure you know what a footprint is, but have you ever thought about the repercussions of your ecological footprint on the Earth? Well, today Patrick and I will be discussing said topic in depth, along with why and how you should be actively seeking to reduce your footprint.
Through taking the eco-footprint test, we as a group have discovered that our lifestyle choices are not productive towards the preservation of Earth's resources. If everyone in the world lived like I did, it would take approximately 2.54 Earths to sustain the global population. On the other hand, a lavish lifestyle like Sam's would use up 3.9 whole Earths. That gives us a group average of 3.22 Earths.
Now, here is our group average compared with the Canadian and global average. As you can see, we are below Canada's average of 3.8 Earths, but require more than double of the global average of 1.5 Earths. Unfortunately, the global average at its current pace is still consuming more Earths than we have.
So what made our ecological footprint so big? Well, there are a few main factors. One reason being air travel. In the last 12 months, I did not spend any time on an airplane, while Sam spent more than 60 hours in the air. If Sam didn't fly at all, like the good environmental steward I am, he would have used 1.4 less Earths.
Sorry. Another reason we have such huge footprints is because we live in a first world country. Everywhere we go, there are first world conveniences such as electricity, Wi-Fi, and transportation, things that all use fossil fuels and produce a ton of greenhouse gases. This fact alone makes up most of our footprint.
On the bright side, BC uses hydro-powered electricity. This source is renewable and therefore has a much lower effect on the environment than burning fossil fuels, helping us reduce the size of our footprint.
Seafood is a resource Patrick and I chose to research in depth. We particularly focused on the environmental impact that consuming fish has.
The desire for seafood has created a thriving industry that supports more than 120 million people worldwide, mostly in developing countries. Fish also play a vital role in sustaining the ocean's ecosystems by being the food source of whales, dolphins, seabirds, and other types of fish.
Obviously, seafood's direct use for humans is sustenance. It is high in protein, contains heaps of vitamin D, and is also the best source to get omega-3 fatty acids, which are crucial for brain development and bone growth.
One of the environmental issues surrounding the acquisition of seafood is overfishing. Most fisheries are poorly managed, leading to a significant decrease in fish population. According to seachoice.org, much of the fish stocks have been fully exploited, overexploited, or depleted altogether. At this unsustainable rate, seafood may disappear by the year 2048. Should we be concerned? In short, yes, but we'll come back to this question later.
Canada and seafood. Did you know that Canada consumes around 800 million kilograms of seafood per year, or 2.2 million kilograms per day? That turns out to be an average of 23.1 kilograms per person annually.
To compare our seafood consumption footprint, we contrasted the Canadian consumption average with the United States and the global average. As you can see, Canadians consume almost 3 times the amount of seafood that Americans do. Is it because of all the sushi we eat?
Moving on. Some methods used that show our desire for profit and numbers outweighing our desire to acquire fish sustainably include overfishing, aquaculture, which is fish farming, stupefying devices, which are devices used to stun fish, and bottom trawling, something that will be described in detail later.
The first effect of using such methods is pollution. Just by looking at the following photo, you can observe many ways this fish farm is detrimental to the environment. There is a heavy load of fish sewage, containing many pollutants not native to the fish's original ecosystem. New diseases and parasites can be introduced, and the herbs, drugs, and antibiotics used for the fish farms can pollute other nearby ecosystems.
On the topic of fish farms, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations estimates that by 2030, 2/3 of fish will be farmed through aquaculture. The processes which are used in fish farms are very harmful to the environment. For example, it takes 3 whole tons of foraged fish to produce just 1 ton of farmed salmon. Other times, fish may escape the farms and harm the native species in the nearby areas. Also, the final product from fish farms are treated with antibiotics, pesticide, and coloring, which are unhealthy to us. Ultimately, these fish farms are linked to the steady decline of wild fish population.
Next is sequential depletion and food web removal. Sequential depletion describes a process of when humans deplete one natural resource, in this case a species of fish, they move on to deplete other ones. Furthermore, the removal of keystone species can lead to ecosystem imbalance, possibly causing the extinction of other species.
Lastly, there is bottom trawling, which is a method of fishing where a net is dragged on the ocean floor. This results in the damaging of fish habitats and leads to bycatch, which is accidentally catching species that were not the target. For example, while bottom trawling for tuna, fishers might also accidentally trap coral reef and stingrays in their nets. It is estimated that 40% of what the fishing industry catches is bycatch, and sometimes the mass of caught bycatch is several times more than the targeted species. These fish are released, but may be injured, decreasing their likelihood of survival.
When there are problems, we must work on finding solutions. One way of minimizing pollution is to use eco-friendly fishing and production methods, unlike bottom trawling. We can say no to bottom trawling companies by avoiding fish species caught through this method, such as rockfish, cod, squid, and shrimp. Next, we can choose to eat seafood species that are lower on the food chain. As we have learned in science class, approximately 90% of energy is lost in the transfer to the next trophic level. If we eat species that are higher on the food chain, we will waste a lot more energy. Also, avoiding keystone species as much as possible helps sustain and support healthy oceanic ecosystems. Lastly, actively choosing to eat a variety of seafood will decrease the likelihood of the extinction of a single species. These solutions will help ecosystems thrive by reducing bycatch and habitat damage.
Honestly, I doubt any of you will go home and Google what types of fish are in lower trophic levels or research which keystone species should I avoid. Many of the solutions listed previously are out of our control. No one here owns a fishery, so we cannot control how they produce fish. It's also hard to force a sushi restaurant to only serve sustainable salmon. So here are a few effective ways you, as fellow teenagers, can help reduce your footprint when you eat seafood. First off, buy local products. In the US, 91% of seafood is imported, and Asia produces 88% of the world's aquaculture. The journey your fish had to take accounts for a huge part of the overall eco-footprint produced from seafood. Simply by buying local products, you will avoid having to burden your footprint with thousands of pounds of greenhouse gases. Secondly, look for the green Sea Choice sticker on your fish products. They do all the work studying sustainability, so you don't have to. Just by choosing a product with a green sticker, you are taking responsibility for your duty as a steward to God's creation. Hi, Patrick and Sam here. We're at Save On Foods at Ironwood.
And we're here to educate some shoppers on how to buy sustainable seafood.
As you can see, we are approaching the seafood section.
Oh look, a person shopping for unsustainable seafood! Excuse me, did you know that shopping for sustainable seafood can help reduce your eco-footprint?
Oh, I did.
Well, here's a pamphlet to choose sustainable seafood.
Thank you.
And let's look at the sustainable seafood section.
Some obstacles we could have faced were sometimes it's hard to find sustainable or local seafood, at the grocery store, and other times people might not want to listen to you or when you tell them to buy sustainable seafood. So those are just a few of the challenges we could have potentially faced.
To conclude, yes, we should be concerned about seafood. As stewards of God's creation, our duty is to make sure that fish remain in the ocean and not extinct. It is true that God has given us fish for sustenance. Matthew 6 verse 25 says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, about your body or what you will wear. Is not life more than food?" Of course God will take care of us even if we make mistakes, but that's no excuse to forsake our God-given responsibilities. Psalms 24 verse 1 says, "The earth and everything in it is God's, who gave us dominion over the fish of the sea," in Genesis 1 verse 28. Therefore urging us to act responsibly as stewards of His creation. As an ending note, if you like sushi, now is the time to act to make your eco-footprint more sustainable, starting with seafood. The year 2048 is in our lifetime. Without correction, we will be the generation that will get first-hand experience on the struggles of living without the seafood industry and a thriving ocean ecosystem. Not our children or our grandchildren, but ourselves. The responsibility solely lies on us to forge a way to sustainability.